any last prep? I'm going to take a sip of coffee before we start.
I hope that I'm allowed to drink coffee during this thing because I suck if I have to sit here and not do anything with my hands.
I do the same thing, man. I can't sit still and I can't stop drinking coffee.
Amen to that. That's all right there.
Yeah.
Well, what does your cap say, Marcus?
It was a gift from a friend who went to Belize, and it's footprints in the sand. God's always with you.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah, sweet.
Yeah, it's just ironic that I'm watching this. Usually, it's I don't know, Alpha Coffee. That's the coffee that I'm sponsored by. It's usually a cup of theirs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I have a Black Rifle mug, but I'm not sponsoring them because of recent political issues. But it is a black cup.
It doesn't break my heart because I roll with my people. So
that's Alpha Coffee.
Yeah, they're in Utah. It's a great company. Good company. Good people.
I'm switching to Alpha Coffee. My next.
I'll send you guys a couple of bags, and then you guys can see what you think. And who's going to say no to free coffee, right? No matter what. It could be shit coffee. It's still going to be like, I'll still take free coffee.
I mean, I would drink dirt water if it had coffee in it. It had caffeine in it.
I think everybody in this talk has had dirt coffee.
I once, when I was trying to save money, I was unemployed. I was at the airport and I was like, I don't want to spend my family's money on coffee. And so I just threw some beans in my mouth and started chewing. Not even kidding. That's
hardcore. I can't say I've ever done that. That is hardcore. If you've ever had Arab coffee, you ever had?
Yeah.
Hank, you ever had any of that?
Lots of times, man.
Right. So, and we never get told right away to not take a big drink. You get the more.
Yeah, because it is just ground up fresh right into the little shot glass.
That's right. Yeah.
Sugar at the bottom.
That shit'll go right to your heart, though. Don't talk about no Death Wish coffee to me, man. That stuff will give you a heart attack.
Yeah, that's why they put it in those small glasses.
Yeah.
To give you some sense of proportion,
it's this much. You're like, what is this? I'm North American. I want a grande, huge, big one.
Yeah.
Just drink this, and you're gonna already be in defibrillation, anyways.
Yeah, you don't want hypertension.
They're like scorpions, the smaller ones. Scorpions. They're
the ones that'll kill you, not the big old ones.
Dude, wait a second. Is that a Frog Logic shirt you have on?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know David Rutherford?
I heard of it, but I don't.
Well, so David Rutherford, no word of a lie, and I say this as many people will listen to it, I wouldn't have the verbiage or the way that I speak in the last 12 years if it wasn't for him. His book, he did a book, obviously team guys, right? The joke is you get your Trident and then you sign your contract for the book. But this was 12 years ago. And he did a book, it's right here. So he did this book called Self-Confidence. He basically just took a lot of the principles that you guys go through in your evolutions and he put it into a way that lay people would understand. And I'm telling you right now, I mean, he had issues with social media, so he hasn't been around for a bit. But that man, I mean, he's a God-fearing man, and he is the shit. Like, he is for real a guy that just is, he's phenomenal. So, yeah, I'm all about that Frog Logic, man. He's a good dude, and I've never heard anything bad about him. Nobody, at least not in my presence, has ever said anything bad about that man.
Nice. I'm going to look up that book.
Yeah, I mean, you know as well as I do, your currency is your reputation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if I'm hearing from other team guys that this guy's not a piece of shit, then I'm pretty good with that. And he's always been solid when I've had discussions with him.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, you just listen to him and he just seems like he doesn't have a lot to hide. Like, he's not trying to be some badass,
No, he's and you know what? I think that's not to get off on a tangent here, but the biggest issue that I have with Soft or any tier one person is.
By the way, we're started. Okay, is that okay with everyone?
Oh, yeah.
All right, go.
Good. It's the fact that you go through your evolutions and you finally, you get your. I don't even know if they do the pounding in the chest thing anymore, but you get your Trident, and then you go and you do your job. You're doing what you were taught what to do. And if it isn't, Dev Grew, cool, 90, SEAL Team 900, like as if that doesn't have any credibility. I think that's unfair because anybody who signed their name on the dotted line should sit there and get the respect they've earned. I don't care if you're a cook or a guy that's jumping out of planes, kicking indoors. You're doing something that most people haven't done. So shut your mouth. You know what I'm saying? And anyway,
that's why the banner veteran is a really good blanket statement. Like you're a veteran, right? Like you don't need a subcontext to that. Like you served your country.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And it shouldn't matter. You were in the Navy. As far as anybody's concerned, you were in the Navy. Doesn't matter whether
they actually don't even know anything beyond that.
And isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Silent professional, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Let's talk. Yeah. I'm a guy who didn't do jack. I didn't do nothing. I never served. So, I have no right to sit there and say anything. None of us do, except you can have opinions about the people within your community because that's your community, right? Everybody else should shut up. Just say thank you.
That's right.
Anyway, sorry about that.
It's good and it's true because a lot of people chase that false limelight, and you see that arrogance. And you're like, well, what?
Yeah.
Well, there's also this idea that I think I've run into because recently, and Hank, you've been with me through this process, but I'm just like, oh, dude, like realize I wish I would have served. I wish I would have, been a part of that, and I wish all this stuff. Because then I'd be a real man. I'd be a real boy. I kind of feel like there's also so I went through that and then realized like, wait a second, the military is there's some cool stuff, and I have a lot of respect. Obviously, everybody knows that, but especially like so there's the veteran blanket statement, and there's also like, okay, I know some people who are pieces of crap who came from the military who are like and they're just standing. They're like, I'm a veteran. And everything. It's like that's cool. I mean, you served and you deserve that. But at the same time, there are different levels of commitment, different levels of skill. In the civilian world, military, everything. So in a way, having to get back from that artificialness of military and just say, well, what is a man? And then can I be a man even if I wasn't special forces? I think it's both, right? I think it's what we just talked about. And then I think there's that other side of it where it's like, all right, well, military service. It's a label. It tells us some stuff, right? For sure. But
what does it tell you? It tells you that you sit there and you made a commitment to your country to go and do something. That's it. And it doesn't, again, I've had people, no word of a lie, and I am blessed. I am blessed to be around a lot of hard charging, door kicking, and they don't, I'm sure Hank will understand what I'm about to say. So bear with me. They just did their job. And you talk to guys who are like, well, I only did this. Like when I hear the words, I only did this when it comes to the military, it breaks my heart, man. Don't downplay what you did because, and again, Hank, if I step out of line, Hank, you just sit there and be like, Marcus, you need to shut up. But the truth is that the guys at the tip of the spear cannot do anything without any support whatsoever. So if they can't do anything without any support, then all the people under the so-called badasses, they never get any love. Who cooks the food when you guys are over? Who sits there and brings and puts everything on track on pallets to get over there? Like somebody's got to fly that shit over there. Like there's so many big parts to a little bit that everybody gets like, oh my God, Navy SEAL, Rangers, whatever. Like I think we're reinforcing that by saying, well, and to go with your topic about, well, I never served, so I'm not very manly. I'm not much of a man. I know a lot of douchebags who served, as you just said, like I'm trying to watch my profanity here. Being a douchebag is like it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a job. You're a douchebag. It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. If you're a douchebag, you're a douchebag. And I'm not going to sit there and put you on a high pedestal if you're a douchebag. I don't care what you do.
Yeah, I definitely think that the thing that I respect most is like badassery with humility. Like I think that's awesome. I do think that we can be like you can be a total badass, whether you're in the military or not. The question is, and I think that's kind of what we will want to get to. Allow me to formally begin the podcast. We've been talking and I'm recording and I want to share this with everybody.
Okay. Well,
let me do a couple of intros though. Guys, so I haven't written intros for everybody. I'm going to intro Chris and I first, and then best for last, our guest. So the place of respect. So I'll start with Hank. So Hank and I have been friends for a long time. Hank he is actually. Let's work on this together, and I'll write up something formal and quick, punchy for next time, Hank. Right. So you are. You were a Navy SEAL. You have a couple of tours in Iraq, right?
Yeah, 2 tours to Iraq and then 1 to South Korea.
South Korea, yeah. So you did a bunch of training there in South Korea. You did a bunch of fighting in Iraq. After that, you GI Bill, went to college, did your finance, right?
Economics and international business. Yep.
Okay, cool. And you've completed all that?
Yep. Graduated this last summer.
Right on. Congrats.
Yeah. It's in my life, I think,
yeah.
Hard for me.
Yeah. There's like becoming a SEAL and then finishing your degree. And it's like,
which one would be easier?
I'll take Bud 6 times over, please.
Yeah.
So, all right. And so now you're, and you have, I don't want to get too much into your personal life, but you have family. Awesome.
2 daughters. Yep. One of them's here in the background. You might guys catch some songs here.
Right.
She's patiently letting me have a break, so hopefully it maintains through it. But yeah, 2 daughters, and just started a job. I'm getting more into real estate thanks to Chris here. He introduced me to real estate in 2019, and that kind of became my new passion and my new direction. And so I started a job as a loan officer, and it's like just my step in the door so that I can be around the industry 24/7. So.
Nice. And then you emerged from the People's Republic of California.
Yeah, man. As soon as I could, man, I worked out a pretty sweet deal. Moved to Nashville, and
nice.
Yeah, and I love it here, man. I do. I really love it. I feel it feels so much more freeing than being in California, where you have to be worried about everything you do, and what's the government going to do next, and what's the next little handcuff they're going to put on you. And so, yeah, I feel blessed, man. Everything worked out really well. Got here last year and everything's going well.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So and I'm probably the main host, I guess. I'm trying to get Hank to join me a little more often. So I don't know. I guess the only thing that's interesting about me is I have a couple of degrees from the University of Oregon. I taught for a while, for about 4 years there, full time, and then I work in branding. And that may sound, branding has kind of a bad reputation, but we do it right. We focus on what's really going on, and let's tell the truth really well. And so that's the point of that. I also care about I think manhood in America is kind of suffering. I don't think we're doing our jobs. I think we're on we have generations behind us of men who gradually kind of let things slip. And so we need to get back to biblical manhood and biblical Christianity, which is why, and also badassery, which is part of that whole thing, I think. Which is why we have Marcus Torgerson. Welcome, Marcus, on the podcast.
Nice segue.
I'm going to read your bio. With over 4 decades of martial arts experience, including 3 decades instructing self-defense and personal fitness, and 2 decades working nightclub security, he's become a respected expert in responding to and de-escalating violent situations. Recently retired from a profession he was blessed to do for over 10 years, he's had the privilege of traveling the globe, certifying men and women in over 20 countries to become Krave Maga instructors, conducting instructional seminars and rank testing. He was the first non-Israeli in the International Krave Maga Federation instructors team. Dude, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, whoever, I can't remember. I think it was a good friend of mine that wrote that up for me. So, Brent, wherever you are, if you listen to this, thank you very much. Made me sound really, really impressive.
Thanks, Brent. You're spiritually a part of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I don't really know. There's nothing really else to say. All right, good talk. Right on, guys. Take care.
Yeah. All right, enough pleasant talk. Let's get to the stuff everybody wants to hear. All right, icebreaker question. We got a question. So you have a class. I was looking online. I was like, all right, let me watch some videos. I know you have some videos out there. I want to hear you talk. I want to hear what you care about. But one of the things I noticed was you have a class about fighting dirty.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, you know what, which the funny part is, and again, if you've done any kind of combative training, any kind, when you sit there and you say dirty fighting, it's an oxymoron. It's like, well, yeah, because the only way to fight is to fight dirty, because all that matters is getting the advantage over the enemy. So I think it's funny, and it's a popular workshop. It's a very popular, like, wow, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, and then when I teach it, people are like, why am I paying you money for this? I'm like, hey man, I sat there and told you in the beginning, this is an idiot-proof version of doing self-defense. And yeah, so we'll just keep going.
Well, all right. Yeah. So, in the light of that class, what I want to ask you guys both was, what's the dirtiest fight moves you've ever heard of?
I'll let Hank go first.
I mean, I thought about this. Like, there's tons. It kind of just really depends on what you think. Like, well, is it organized fighting, or are we like, am I getting attacked on the street by a guy who wants to take my life?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking just like, dude, yeah.
And I don't think there's anything. There's not dirtiest. It's what's available. Are the eyes available? Then that's what you go for. I've been really trying to get this stuff into my head, my daughter's head. She's 13 years old. Mm-hmm. The more she's out in the world, the more she's going to be exposed. It's just going to happen. You're going to be around these people in some capacity. And so it's like, look, in the off chance that this kind of stuff ever happens, you have to be willing to do something extreme. And so getting that into your head to accept that, one, is an idea, and two, like, you can't be afraid to follow through with it. And I try to teach her a few like little things, and same with Sarai, and because there is no rules, there is no dirtiest. Nope. It's just like, this is stuff that's available to you. This is what I want you to take. That's how I view it. That's Yep, that's 100%. And I think the funny part about it, before I give my answer, is the answers to surviving any type of an onslaught of an attack, anything, is, as Hank said, you're going to utilize whatever tools available, right? Whatever's around you. And secondly, the mental commitment to whatever it takes to get me an opportunity for escape. So my dirtiest move, it's illegal. I mean, it's not illegal, but you'll get a ticket for it, is spitting. If somebody's attacking you, or they're talking to you and they're saying, I'm going to kill you, or anything to that effect, the minute that you spit, preferably in their mouth, you get a half a second of a flinch for, I'm not ready for this. Whether you have the opportunity to run at that point, or you have to or it buys you an opportunity to go to your next evolution for violence, whatever it is, that's my dirtiest move. It's illegal, though. Keep in mind, you're going to get a ticket. It's against the law to spit on somebody. That's awesome.
It's an assault charge.
Yeah. So in other words, you just started the fight, right? Because you assaulted the other person.
Yep. But I'm telling you this, and I'm not going to use Hank's daughter because that's too personal. An imaginary 16 or 13 or 15-year-old girl in court survived the attack. And the bad guy's lawyer is saying, by the way, we're going to charge this person also with assault because of this assault. I dare a judge, any judge, to look at the victim, whatever that word is, and say, by the way, young lady, congratulations on surviving your assault. I am going to charge you with assault. I dare a judge to do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you. It's ridiculous. Now, is spitting, it is a disgusting, like you spit on a cop, you're getting cuffed. And I agree, spitting is a disgusting thing, which is why it makes it such an effective tool, because they're not expecting it.
That's a good dirty move, man. Right? That's a really good one.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And be afraid of the man or woman that when you spit on them, they smile. Right?
You messed up at that point.
Yeah. Go to plan B. Freak out.
Cool. So one of the other things, so I think that was a good icebreaker. Good job, guys. I could have asked you about like fake fighters too, your favorite YouTube fake fighter, which would have been super fun. Or favorite fake fighting move, because I got one of those. Actually, you know what? What's that?
What is it?
I'm going to ad-lib this one.
Okay.
I once saw a serious, which caused me to totally lose faith in anything I saw on the internet. Like basically I have to know the person now. Like if I watch a video where you're telling me to do it, I will. But anybody else, it's pretty much, so this one guy was like, he's like teaching cops how to deal with bad guys. He's like, brace yourselves. He's like, yeah, most times people fight, they get in a fighting stance like this. You just reach in and take their elbows and make them punch their face. And I'm like, how are you gonna get that close? How are you gonna get in there? Oh, so my chin, what am I doing this?
That's funny.
I don't know, man. I'm just like,
why not just grab their hands and like not touching, not punching themselves, right?
Why are you punching yourself?
My brother did it to me, you know. I think I was like 5 and he was like 15, so I don't think right?
Hank, you need to revisit your brother right now, get to him and be like, come here, and then start punching him and be like,
It's might be a little less fair now.
That's why though.
It was not fair then. That was, you know. But effective, right? So I can account real world. It does work. It just matters.
I don't know if I would do that against a hostile person, because I'll tell you right now, when you're fighting somebody and the first thing they do is put their hands up like this, they're not to be trifled with.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not. This is where de-escalation or a good kick to the balls is going to, and run is the best answer, because touching somebody who's put their hands up and they know to protect their job, no, don't want to have anything to do with them.
So to be clear, this guy was like, you reach in, take their elbows and make them hit themselves in the face. And I'm just like, I'm no expert fighter, but I think like normally you want to protect yourself, not put your arms out and try to reach under someone's elbow so you can like get a little leverage so that you can maybe punch them in the face. Meanwhile, they're throwing a straight punch right down the middle, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like, that just seems like you're making yourself defenseless. But anyway, that's what I was just like a little skeptical. Color me.
Yeah. I'll take stupidity for 500, Alec. Thank you.
I think that's a grown adult that came up with that.
Yeah.
And thought it was serious. Like
I was like, is this like, are
was
they
that
being
an American
ironic?
company? Hey, was that Americans or was that foreign?
This was years ago. It was, he had an American accent. He might've been like Asian, which maybe he was riding the whole like karate kind of thing.
Or was he working with foreigners or working with Americans?
It just seemed like, it was like a couple of years ago. But it left an indelible mark on my.
Yeah. I think it's left an indelible mark on all of us.
It was Americans. I think it was in an alley, filmed in an alley or something like that.
That's ridiculous. That is absolutely crazy.
Marcus, you say that throwing a punch is one of the worst things you can do. You remember saying that?
In context, I don't advise men and women or children, whoever's in the fight, to throw a punch. If you've ever broken your hand, okay, and normally there's a reason why they call it a boxer's fracture, right? The last 2 knuckles, because you usually punch and turn your hand over. There's a multitude of reasons why not. When you open your hand, the amazing part about opening your hand is it fits every crevice 360 around a human's head. If you've ever had the reset button touched, and Hank's smiling, I'm sure, there's a reset button cracked in the back of the head, hit in the back of the head. It gets your point across, but it's idiot proof. So if all you do is, and I call it high-fiving to the face. If you just high-five somebody in the face, everybody's high-fived. And it's idiot-proof. You cannot hurt yourself. At the end of the fight, you might have some bruising, but it's idiot-proof and it's effective. So yeah, if you're asking me if I have a choice between a punch or something else, I'm going to go with something else because most people will bust up their hands.
Mm-hmm.
I even like, like punching a heavy bag. I don't like to wrap up. And usually when I work out, I'm like, I'm not primarily trying to get good at it, like punching or anything. I'm just more like kicking the bag, doing some like trying to work on my mechanics a little bit. And then, but I would start getting like, what is it, arthritis or just like some, I don't know what it was. Cause I just wouldn't wrap up. I'm like, I'm hitting it soft, I'm moving I'm hitting with my shoulders. I'm not articulating my wrists, but still I'm like, dude, if I miss or someone leans in or something, I hit their forehead. Like, I don't know if I really want to do that. And so when I saw that you said that, I was like, that kind of makes sense. And so I started teaching my son already, like open hand, palm. There's
a really great principle: hard on soft, soft on hard. So if I'm going to make a fist and I crack you in the trachea, I'm going to win. You know what I'm saying? If it's a hard object, then I got to sit there and use something that's soft on it, like going hand to hand. I'm not talking about using tools. Most people, when you look at boxers, they're so accustomed to wrapping their hands that they get lazy with where their mechanics are when they're starting to throw things, which is why street fighters are deadly to work with, because of the fact that, one, they throw asinine, crazy shots out of nowhere. They're coming from like Tahoe and throwing a haymaker, and they're connecting, and they know where to hit and they know what to do. Civilized people have no idea, because when's the last time most people got in a fight in like grade school or high school? It's been 10, 15 years. They have no idea about violence. They have no idea how to react when violence comes their way. And so they're going to do what their memory says. And the memory says punch, and then they punch, and then they break. And now they can't use the right hand. Now, if we evolve it to working with people who carry a belt or they carry a weapon or they're concealed carry, whatever, and I break my right hand and now I got to go to tools and I've got a broken limb, well, how am I going to utilize that tool? Like, it's just not functional. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How am I supposed to grab? How am I supposed to pull? It's just useless. So don't punch.
Yeah. I'm going to stop punching. I'm going to hit my bag with my palm.
Well, and the beautiful part is, like, when you throw a hook punch, if you open that hand up, the way that it hits the jawline and the ear, you're rupturing eardrums, man. Then there is if anybody has ever had eardrum problems, listen, your equilibrium's done and you're standing around just ready to get punched out. It's not a fun thing.
Yeah. I think my dad told me that he was the infantry and he'd bring home little tips and tricks.
All right.
So one time, it was before he was intelligence, but he was infantry before that. He'd be like, up here to kill him, here to put him out of commission,
Right.
Fun fact, he would tell me that it takes, I think he told me this like every day for a while. It only takes 13 pounds of pressure to pull off your ear.
Yeah. Actually 7. It's actually 7.
Infantry guys are fun. Combat arms. Also, all right. So next question. How can you be so happy when you're a killer?
And I'm going to deflect that over to the other person. This is called throwing someone under the bus, everybody. Here you go.
That's right.
Welcome. I think I have to 100% take a Christian perspective from this, because I think no matter what you do, if you don't have Christ in your life, you're going to be battling with it's about all-encompassing happiness and the feeling of contentment in your life. So I think that's first and foremost, like it doesn't matter really what you do, right? Like if you're a gunfighter, if you're a fist fighter, if you work at a bank, if you don't have Christ in your life, like that happiness and fulfillment is going to be elusive to you. It's just the way it is. And so I defer to that, but then I also go back at and look at biblical characters where I'm just like, dude, that's nuts. David was an absolute killer,
savage,
an absolute killer up close. Like none of this, like 100 yards away, hey, like how do we keep distance? He's like, no, how do I close distance? How do I sprint at a dangerous being with a gigantic spear and outmaneuver him and kill him face to face and then cut off his head? It's like,
wow, yeah.
But then that guy goes home and he sleeps at night and he loves his family and it's like the perspective is because he had God, right? Like he had this fulfillment that came outside of that. And that was just something that happened in his life. It was his job, right? Like it was his normal. But he had something else that grounded him, and that was that relationship in God. And only God can really can provide you that happiness. So that's why I think they're not connected. It's like solely grounded in God, regardless of what you do as a profession in life and stuff.
Yeah. And there's something to be said with the verbiage too. Killing and murder are two different things.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So David could sit there and sleep well because he didn't kill anybody.
Yep.
Or what he did was in a retaliation of self-defense, and he fought for a greater cause. He wasn't murdering anybody, right?
Yeah, he's not jacking somebody in a 7-Eleven, for their wallet and and shooting him for fun, that kind of psychotic behavior. That's something that a lot of people in the world, I think if they haven't thought about it, they think, well, death is death, right? And you're like, no, not even close. And which is why you see the violent reaction that happened in our country when a cop kills or even just roughs up or even like is guilty of abuse of a criminal. You're like, yeah, okay, but how angry are you that dude just down the street just went on a wild chase and shot up his neighbors and killed?
There's got to be a balance.
Yeah,
can't be selective with it.
100%. I think that's a really bad confusion in our country. And I mean, we saw our country burn for it.
Yeah. That's again, perspective and walking in somebody's shoes. I think is the hardest thing that most people won't do. They won't walk in their shoes or even imagine what's going on in the before. You know what? It reminds me of bad analogy. Bear with me, you guys. I'm new to this. But it's when somebody throws something from the Bible, like they take one line, but there's no before and there's no after. So there's no context to it. So you're just cherry picking what you want out of it. And I think that if you put everything in a before, during, and after context, you would have a different perspective on how you viewed said topic, whatever that topic is, especially when it comes to our military and law enforcement in actions that they do in distressful times. Yeah. Right? Like you can't sit there and hate on them without looking at before and after the event, which unfortunately our society isn't prepared to do.
Yeah, or like watching the whole news story instead of just hearing the little snippet.
The sound bites are sexy, right?
And narratives are sexy too. So, so I really love Hank where you took this because it made me think about decisiveness in general. So when I said killer, of course I'm joking, this is fun to talk about. But when you really take it to like, all right, so what's anchoring you? Because we all have to do hard things and there are different levels of hard thing. And I think taking a life is probably a pretty high level of hard thing to do, but firing someone is too. You're changing their life. You're seeing their reaction. In some ways, the consequences, are a little different because you get to see them. And you're hoping, okay, did I just break something? And so for people who care, not even overly conscientious, but just care about what happens, right? Care about right and wrong. Those kinds of things can affect you. And what I heard you say, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that this I'm asking slightly the wrong question, right? When I say, how can you be so happy when you're a killer? What you said was, it goes deeper than that. The right question is what anchors you? What is, and I want to say that differently. I want to say, what is higher than that you're serving? So if you have to kill someone on the battlefield, if you have to kill someone for self-defense to defend your family, you're protecting a righteous person, even if it's you being attacked, right? They're doing the wrong thing. You're doing the right thing. When you're firing someone, the question is, is this for a higher purpose? Like, is everything I'm doing in my life for something bigger than me? Or, do I just like killing? Do I just like firing people? Am I doing it for a good reason? Or is it for something that's too small? And I think I lost Hank because I think he asked to grab his daughter. So.
Okay, good call. All right. Well, he was on the money with that, and I think that and I appreciate you kind of opening the scope of it, because the question was lighthearted, but the seriousness of the big picture of it is important. And I will say this, that there's, because you said right and wrong. Well, right and wrong is in whose eyes? The bad guy he thinks he's doing right because he's doing what he's supposed to be doing for him. We have no idea what's going on in his world, right? He may be trying to, like, if we use it on a battlefield, he's got a job to do as well. He's doing his job, you're doing your job. And what makes it, and again, this is coming from a guy who's never had somebody in sights, dropped them, and when bullets have been whizzing by me, let me tell you right now, I have been running toward them. So let's just be clear about this. But I will say that my lifestyle that I've lived in up until this point has given me perspective of everybody's doing their job, and they think they're doing the right thing. So it's not for me to say who's right and who's wrong. That's up to them and what they're doing, and how, as Hank said, what do you believe in, and are you doing? If you're anchored in Christ or in God or in your religion or whatever you believe in, if you're doing right by that, then it comes down to, at your final days, who you're gonna account to, and what you're gonna have to look at what you believe in eye to eye and say, hey man, I did everything to the best of my abilities by being as righteous as possible. I don't know. That was a lot. I feel like that was a lot of diarrhea coming out of my mouth. That was a lot of talk.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think, first of all, you better be right about what you believe, right? I mean, because the stakes are high. But I also think that one of the things that I believe, and I think that it's really important for men, for our society, that men believe, is that we need to know right from wrong, and we need to take it seriously. And that's like, part of that's reverence for the Bible, like understanding the truth, because it's not the Bible's true and Buddhism is true and Islam is true. It can't be that. One of the problems with our country is that we can't look at things and say, hey, we can't recognize the law of contradiction. Something can't be A and non-A at the same time, right? In the same manner, right? So right. And I think it's for us to say, first let's be logical. First, let's take the basics that God's given us to figure out right from wrong. And so I think there is culpability with people. So if somebody says, hey, I'm providing my family by mugging you, and that's right, we can say, yeah, they believe what they're doing is right. But you know what? They're wrong. And I'm going to defend myself because what I'm doing is right. The important thing, though, is I really do think it's important that we know right from wrong. And I think that's the responsibility we have, to go to the Word and say, okay, can I believe this Bible? Can I believe in this God? And now let me reason that out, similar to, and let that encourage me, and let me base everything on it. Let my philosophy of life flow from it. In the same way where some guys are like, which I really admire, they're like, hey, when it's my time to go, it'll be my time to go. And then they charge into the battlefield because they're like, you know what? God's in charge, not me. And I get to just go because when it's my time, it's my time. And that's the kind of philosophy we need to get from the Bible, where it's like, you know what? I'm going to be brave because of the Bible, because I'm extending that philosophy into life. I'm going to be kind because guess what? That's in the Bible. And I'm going to let that philosophy, flow into my life, and I'm going to express that.
Right.
Thoughts?
Yeah, but I mean, and I'm always going to look at it from a civilian's perspective. So when we hear stuff like going into the battlefield and the bravery of facing evil, most of the people listening to this have never been on a battlefield, in the sense of the battlefield that they view what Hanks had to go as soon as he went on foreign soil and had to do his job. But all of us are in a battlefield when we get up every day, and we thank God for letting us be there. And we have to face our trials and tribulations. We have to face what life is coming to us. The fact that you've survived 24 hours and you go to bed, like that's a war that many people, men and women, especially men, are fighting right now. The fact that they have to try to stay alive and they're facing their battles and doing the best that they can, right? The courage that it takes to sit there and talk to God and keep you on a path of being kind, respecting your neighbor's, wife, and every commandment that is timeless. And that if we just followed those commandments, right? Now, remember, I'm new to this. I got baby faith, as my boy Michael Todd says. I got baby faith.
Which is super exciting, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I was super stoked when I saw you getting baptized. I'm just like, dude, it just like gave me such joy. That was awesome. Well, sorry to interrupt. I just had to say.
Well, no, but my big point of this is when we hear about people whose job it is to run into danger, we romanticize it, and that downplays our daily struggles of being like, you know what? I have to provide for my family, or a million things that go through a man, because we're talking about men here, a man's world. And they think that they're not being courageous by standing up and living for their family or whatever their dark times are. And my point is basically that I kind of lost my point because I've got like 900 conversations going on in my head right now. But I think that anybody who's listening to this, if you've gone through dark times, and your ability to have the strength and courage to continue on your path when everything seems that it's going wrong, and people lose their faith every day, right? They feel like they forget that God's got their back. They forget about it because they're allowing other things to change that voice that's in their head. And I think the people that are courageous enough to, even when they're losing their faith at times, the fact that God still watches them and says, okay, I know you're slipping. Yeah. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a nudge to remember that you have a purpose, and your purpose is blank, whatever it is, and just take one step at a time. And I'm beside you.
Yeah. I love that. and what it sounds like you're saying is that, we look at war and we think, oh, that's the real battle. But what we need to realize is that this is what I love. This is why I love talking with warriors, because like both of you guys, is because war is a great analogy. It's a great testing ground for life, right? So it's kind of the ultimate. It's a closed system. If Napoleon goes into war, we saw the results. That's it. That's the system. The system is closed. It's not like, oh, but afterward there was this, and then before that led up to this. It's like, yeah, those things have explanatory power. Those things may give us a little context about what going into the war, but the war had a start, it had an end, and had a loser and had a winner. And we saw what they did. And so it's a great model. It's a great analog for life. And so it sounds like, and I've seen that for a while. And I think that looking at that should show us tactics, and it should show us like the realities of things, but it should also not downplay the fact that God's put maybe not every day is glorious. Not every day is Instagram. Not every day is, it's like there are the small things, and faithfulness in the small things prepares you for the eventual, for that, when the sparks fly, and the brass fly, when there's actual fireworks in war, which is very rare, and we need to be content, and we need to realize that, hey, today, the work that's in front of me, that God's put in front of me, Ephesians 2:10, he has prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. That's my responsibility today. And I can rest in that, and I can enjoy the work knowing that God is preparing me, for that eventual time, and also building my family.
But I think Hank would agree that there's no winning in war. Like there is no winning in war, because it's like they say when they say who won the fight. Well, there's no winning the fight. You survive and thrive during your during your combative movements. And to steal something from Frog Logic, he says about the combat of life. Like, this is what we're doing right now, is the combat of life. And we have negative insurgency that tries to attack us, right?
Yep.
So the only way, and to say that we win means that it gives the impression that I've won. I'm good. And that's unfair, because I won today. I did today. And if I'm blessed to get tomorrow, then tomorrow I need to survive and thrive in the combat of life, because the negative insurgency is around me and it does not stop. Yeah. And the only way we can make it have less noise is to be in our faith, believe in ourselves, believe that somebody bigger than us, that God's got our back. Because the problem I have with absolutes, like winning and losing, is my life experience has shown that the only thing that's absolute is death. That's the only thing I know for sure. I know for sure 100% that there's death. That's all I know. And everything else is subjective. Hank's history and your history and my history, while there may be similarities, are completely different. That's the beautiful part about being a human being, is I can listen to your guys' stories and be like, okay, I relate to like 1/10 of a quarter of an ounce of a little bit of it. And the rest is fascinating for me to learn from your hardships. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm shutting Hank up. Hank, you need to jump in. So shut up, Marcus.
I'm muting it to try and keep the kitty and meow and all that stuff out of the background.
Don't even worry about it, man. I'm gonna ask your daughter to sing Baby Shark in a minute.
Yeah, but what I like is, like, and you guys have both said this, is it's look, war and fighting is just, it's an analogy for moving that into the real space, which is why when I brought up, like, you know, whether you're on the battlefield or you're working in a bank, like that's the same thing. And we're talking about manhood and the struggles that men do and how to be strong and what it means, right? What does it mean to do the right thing and to fire the bad employee, even though you know it's going to cause these problems? But you know, what does it mean to deny, you know, time with your friends so that you can make sure that you're spending adequate time with your children? Like, there's a lot that goes into being a man and things that are very hard, you know. And like, I just started a men's Bible study last night, and we were talking about that. And one of the things that came up was anger, you know, and it's like, it's something like that every man can understand. It was like, when we get into certain circumstances and stress, and it just like, all of a sudden it just tips. And what that brings afterwards is, you're like, and I've done it, you know, you're like embarrassed. You're like, man, dude, I can't believe I yelled at my kid like that over that. That was so stupid. And that's what really, like, taking those lessons from war, taking those lessons from fighting, and like that glamorized thing that you said, Marcus, and being like, okay, but that applies to this, and this is the real thing that every guy can take and be like, yeah, dude, I relate to that 100%. I relate to that. You know, I have to wake up and do the hard thing every day. I have to go to a job that's like, it's not glamorous. Yeah. You know, it's not a kid, you know, you're like, I want to play basketball, or I wanted to, you know, I want, you know, be some big shot. I want to be a movie star. And it didn't happen. And so now you're doing the hard, but that's real. Like, you're doing something hard. Just like you said, Marcus, you're waking up every day and you're doing something hard. And now it's just like, it's bringing into that aspect of, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And why do I do this? And why do I do it? Yeah. Right. What makes this, you know, all worthwhile, you know, and that's where we center these things on God. And then God says, all right, yeah, you've got your focus on me, which is where I want it. And so now I'm going to point to you and how to teach you how to line up what's important in your life, you know, your kids, your responsibilities, making sure that you're honest when you pay your bills, making, you know, it's like, and that's what I'm saying when we go and we use these the warrior mindset and all. It's just purely to get that application into where it is like, I've never shot a gun. You're like, doesn't matter. We got it. And you're still dealing with these hardships, and they totally apply. Yeah. Yep.
Love it.
Good point. Yeah.
So guys, I love that. So can we talk about hesitation a little bit? Because that was one of the questions, and it made me think, if we're applying combat to life, right? And like Rutherford says, you know, the combat of life, right? Mm-hmm. If we're applying that, one of the things I think we lose is the ability to act decisively. And so when I had a question I threw out to you guys, I threw out a little discussion guide to you guys. And one of the questions was, when is violence righteous and when is it unrighteous? What makes men hesitate? And then how can we get over that hesitation, right? So I was curious because I know you guys are both warriors. Like, you guys have literally like had to take action, right? And you've had to know when to not take action and when to take action. Mm-hmm. And you've both probably worked through hesitation, right? Mm-hmm. Either that or you're just naturally just like, oh, I just know. My question is, and then I guess, have you guys seen that hesitation? And then one more thing, back in the 80s, I told you my dad was infantry. One of the things it was like some picnic for this unit, and I was a little kid. And I just remember they were playing volleyball, and one of the guys was like, hesitation kills in the battlefield. So they were like ruining each other. And so trash talking each other. But hesitation kills in the battlefield, obviously, right? And so, guys, tell me so have you guys seen hesitation in real life? And maybe a story would be cool. I think the listeners would love that.
Well, Hank's going to have a good one, so I'm going to dive in real quick because his is going to be, and I'm putting words in his mouth, so I'm pretty sure he's like, Marcus, shut up. You don't know what's going on with you.
He's totally setting you up, Hank, for disappointment. So now you have to really come
sorry, everybody. Everyone's on their seat. They're like, oh, that wasn't.
Yeah, no, but really, what is hesitation? I mean, let's be honest. What hesitation is in some aspects. I don't necessarily think in combat, but because what do they have? The tactical pause. That's whenever you use the word tactical before you do something, it instantly makes it sexy.
Yeah,
I had a tactical.
It makes it right.
I made a tactical urination. But really, hesitation for the most part, a lot of times is like when violence comes our way, our hesitation is a flinch, and it's a natural occurrence. So if we have hesitation in what we're doing, it's usually because we're not sure if what we're doing is right or not. And I think hesitation is good in a practical standpoint when you and I are having a disagreement. And my first instinct is to punch you in the mouth. I need to have a small bit of de-escalation and ask questions. Is this punch really needed? Is there a way for me to get out of this situation without having to go to a extreme of, say, violence or bad words or whatever? And that hesitation, I really believe, is just a pause button to be like, hold on a second, Marcus. This guy's yelling at you because you cut him off or you took his parking spot or whatever. Calm down. Look at the big picture. This guy, is he really mad at me? Or is he mad about the fact that his kid has cancer? Right? The hesitation, you need to sit there for a split second and be like, is he really? Like, really? If somebody comes out of nowhere and starts trying to stab me, you're going to have a natural response of, oh my goodness, is this really happening? And then you have to act. But aside from those 1% positions, the rest of it, all of it can be, hold on a second. Where is this coming from? What is this person's, are they really angry at me? Probably not. So how important is this discussion that we're going to have? How important is this interaction? Well, chances are, I'll bet you $1 million, it's probably not that important. So if it's not that important, then I can just sit there and say, you know what, buddy, you're absolutely right. I am a fill in the blank. And you know what? I didn't mean to take your spot. And if it's cool with you, I'd like to stay here. If not, I'll move, because it's not that big a deal. Because whatever you're angry at, whatever you're really angry at, isn't me. And maybe by my kindness and giving grace to this situation, whatever is troubling this individual, hopefully it'll calm them down a little bit. And maybe we can actually have a quick discussion. Be like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I cut you off. You know what? I'm sorry I snapped at you. Doing something in that hesitation to change the direction of whatever that interaction was.
Well, what does Proverbs say? He who controls his emotions is better than he who can take a city. Sun Tzu talks about if you can tell your opponent is gets emotional and gets offended, rib him, like challenge him in those areas, make him like, get his goat,
Right.
Also,
right now in a violent situation, that's a stupid tactic to do. If I've already calmed you down and then to be like, you're a pussy. Look at you. You're upset about this. Yeah, I'm asking to get stabbed. So I'm not sure if Sun Tzu, and I agree on that one 100%.
Well, and I think what Sun Tzu is talking about is like, if you can get your opponent, and I've heard other fighters say this too. And I'm sure there's other, points of view on it, but who was it I was listening to? Someone, maybe it was Jocko. I don't know. Anyway, was talking about if you allow yourself to get mixed up in your head, if you allow someone to get under your skin, or like basketball players when they do trash talk and stuff to try to get, but I think like, how rad would it be if some guy was like, kind of like did something, offensive or was offended by something you did. And you're just like, dude, I apologize.
Yeah. It's that simple. It is that simple. And
everything
it's
okay.
Millions of times.
How rad would it be if you could end that conversation by praying for him, for his daughter who has cancer, And I think that marks a man for sure, right? Like someone who can make God through you can make beauty out of a bad situation.
That's de-escalation 100%. That's full on de-escalation.
Yeah. What about like hesitation about when something's right? So like, I just remember I took a class from some guys in Tempe, and it was like mostly Krave based, and so one of the things they did was they had a guy who was all decked out and all the stuff, right? All the protective gear, and you might do this drill, I don't know, but so he comes up to you and what they tell you is this, like, you have to choose when to act, because there's a point where you want to de-escalate, but then there's that point where you have to act. And as soon as you have to act, you have to know, and then you go, right? So he's walking up to you, you have to choose some line and you have to choose it. And if he crosses that, that's when you go, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about, have you guys, and Hank, it sounded like you might have a thought too. But I was wondering if you guys have seen that hesitation when you should do it, but you just want to wait. You wait too long, right?
Yeah, but that's insecurity, fear, and doubt, right? That's a lack of training that causes that fear and insecurity. If you have a woman and a man screaming at her, you know what, you're dead, I'm going to kill you, and she has no idea on how to sit there and respond to that violence, she's going to sit there and take it and take it and take it. What makes people like, and I'm going to throw Hank under the bus here again. He has training. He's got skill sets that give him the confidence that when that person comes, his line is usually, and I'm going to say something for him, and he can agree or disagree. When somebody says, "That's it, you're dead," or "I'm going to kill you, your children," then it's go time. Like there's no amber light there. It goes right from red to green. But everything before that is all bullshit. You're going to try to de-escalate. Yes or no, Hank?
Yeah, that's 100%. But yeah, it's 100%. And that's, and I want to tie this back into when you said that some people kind of complain that they're paying for your class and being like, oh, like, because the stuff seems simple. It's like, yeah, it was simple, but you didn't know it before. And right. You've never practiced it. You can even like be like, oh, hey, I know this move. You're like, really? Try it on a live human being.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yep. You're not going to do well. You have to drill this stuff, the simplest things. When I first started back into jiu-jitsu, I hadn't been in, since before the pandemic. I got tapped out by a small girl.
Yeah.
Like, you know why? Because I didn't know how to get out of the, we were starting in like bad positions, and I didn't know how to get out of bad positions.
Thanks for your humility, Hank, because that is really embarrassing.
Yeah. But that, you know what I mean? And you can be like, oh, well, I know this or I know that. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. No. You've never tried to do this. So you be like, oh, spitting on someone's mouth. Oh, that's so stupid. It's like, you didn't know it and you've never had it.
Yeah. Well, there's also the emotional piece too, because when I took that Krave class, I didn't realize I knew it was a training situation. It wasn't like this guy.
Your brain knows it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if your brain knows it, you don't practice it. You can't even react. You can't react, which is why, in the teams and all that stuff, we do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
We know how to react to every single thing, and it's the exact same thing into these circumstances, man. Like I knew how to do some escapes from the bottom in let's say full mount, just a couple of weeks ago. And, but this guy was on par with me or a little bit better, and I couldn't get out.
Yep. Yeah.
2 nights ago, what did I do? I came home and I drilled. I bought a dummy so I could drill at home because I can't drill all the time. Yeah. And Nick saying, "No, dude, the guy can't hold me down," because I knew the escapes. Because I had sat at my own home and I went and I was like, okay, I got to practice this. Yeah, I knew the steps before that, but that dude ate alive, and I sat underneath him for 4 or 5 straight minutes.
Oh,
Now we were doing it. It was just like positional rep. And all of a sudden I'm getting out. I'm
transitioning. Yeah.
It's like, and then I talked to one of the professors and he's like, hey, like, that's awesome. But like, do this. This is like fine tuning it. And I was like, cool. Yeah. Like now next time I do that, I'm going to be even better. And that's something that a lot of people know. It's like, dude, that head knowledge it's a start, but it doesn't go anywhere without practical knowledge. I've shot, man, dude, I don't know how many thousands upon thousands of rounds yesterday. I went to the range yesterday and my shots sucked. For what my skill level is or had been, because I hadn't been, it's my 3rd time shooting the gun since 2018.
Wow.
Because I was focused on school, man. Like I was in California, it was a pain. Yeah. Like I was like, go and shoot. Like I hate this place. Right. And so now I'm in a place I go shooting a lot more. And or at least I don't know, maybe Chris, maybe we went shot maybe 2018
in Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so like one other time, but I never went to California once I left the military. And and then like I tightened it up. I was like, all right, hey, slow down, man, dude. You know how to do it. Slow down, breathe, get your grips. Like, dude, if your sight's not on, don't pull the trigger. Right. Like,
don't jerk that thing. Yeah.
Like my shot groups going. And even though my distance was going back, my groups were getting better because the reps in, I was getting that practical thing. And it's like, if you're in translating this to everybody, to people who don't shoot, man, dude, if you're always like losing your patience, if you're always getting angry and upset at these things, dude, it takes reps. It takes reps. To learn how to deal with somebody who's badgering you at work, you have to have like, okay, I got to think through this. How do I talk to this guy? Like you said, maybe he's going through cancer, or his kids or something, or or maybe that guy could have been abused as his kid, and he just awful home, like, and all he knows is to just be contentious. And so, like now you can use that in your brain. Okay. The Bible says, like, straight up, a kind word turns away wrath. All right, how can I be kind to this guy? How can I sit down? Hey, man, like I see, like, you're always like upset at me for something, man. Like, can we talk about something? Like, am I doing something to get on your nerves? And all of a sudden, you like you said, like you just humbled yourself, and now you just put yourself in a position that you could never be if you're just like, all right, let's puff up our chest and let's see what we can do this. Like you said, there's that red line. Like, okay, you want to push. There is a point where it's like, oh, okay, that thing's then just
go time.
But that's not the aspect. You can go and you can break that down, and that's difficult to do as a man, dude. You want to puff up your chest.
But it's Hank. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's difficult because there's expectations as being what a man is. Yeah. A man fights. A man, like, there's bullshit that was told to us from people above that lied to us and said, no, a man's man does this and a man's man does this. Listen, every human, but we'll keep it to men. Everybody on this call right now and everybody listening bleeds, defecates, and cries the exact same way. There's nothing special about any of us. So if you're yelling at me at work, using work as a great example, because people get so stressed, and this is why I'm probably self-employed, because I wouldn't play well with others. But if you're sitting there and you're yelling, man, having the courage, and it is courage to walk up and say, hey, buddy, you are yelling at me on the regular. You're constantly doing whatever. What am I doing really that's wrong? And it is courage because you looked at it like you're a pussy and, you're not man enough to stand up for yourself. Confrontation is uncomfortable for most people because it's either I yell, beat, scream, or I sit in silence. Like we have two extremes. And we're not educated as to how to sit there and have a conversation. Say, hey, Chris, look, man, I want you to know that every time you chew and it's an open mouth and you don't close your mouth, I want to take a knife and stab you repeatedly. Okay? But now there's a nicer way to say that. Hey, buddy, you know what? And you know what the nicer way to deal with it is? Go out of the room when they're chewing.
Yeah.
Walk away. Having the courage to walk away from something is better than sitting there and confronting many, many, many times, unless I'm stuck in a room that's 2 by 2 and I have to hear you chew on a regular basis. Different story altogether.
So I have a great example of this actually, because God has recently put it on he gave me a situation that showed me how out of control of my emotions I am. Like, you know how like you go through life and you're just not faced with these situations and then it comes up and it's like, yeah, even then it was socially acceptable, but I didn't feel good. And so anyway, God was like, took the highlighter and he was like, hey, deal with this. Right. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to learn how to be calm. I'm not going to let things get to me. As soon as you say that, right, you realize how hard it is, because it seems like it would be easy, right? But then you realize how hard it is. But I'll tell you, through different situations, through weeks of just like refusing to raise my voice to my kids, refusing, right? And now my kids do what I want, right? It's funny how that works. But refusing that, being in different situations, then realizing, I'm like tight. I'm fearful right now, And then you say, okay, all right. And so you're starting to analyze kind of your own activities. And then last week, I had a couple of clients kind of get mad at me via email, right? Kind of like, oh, that costs too much. We're offended or whatever. And we're just going to pause everything, almost kind of like a power play, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, hey, I should give them a call. Oh, I don't want to, right? Because it's stress. Because what if they chew me out and all this stuff? And it's like, but I realized that I've done so much changing in the last, like by God's grace and through his like filling, because I don't think I could do it on my own. The natural me kind of sucks, right? And I'm ashamed, but the me that God works through is so much more glorifying to him. And I was able to, and I still hesitated, but I picked up the phone and I dialed the numbers and I got voicemail because of course they don't want to talk to me, I guess. So, yeah. But just super calm, just like explained what I thought was going on, apologized if I came across as pushy or anything like that. And then cool. But everything's cool. Let me know, whatever, let me know what you decide. And part of that is because, and I'll tell you, there's some components to that. One of them is that the company I work for doesn't put pressure on me to keep every client, right? I don't have to. It's like, what works for them? Are we serving them well? Do they not think we are? Okay. Right. Are they a good fit? No. Well, that's fine then. Right. Yeah. And then, so that's part of it is like not being desperate for anything and just, having yourself be calm and realizing that God is the one in control. He puts the steps before us. He gives us the victories. And the last newsletter of this podcast was basically like, without God, there is no victory. Right. And I believe that. And so believing that allows me to pick up the phone, call. It gives me all the ammo I need, all the background I need to be able to go into a phone call. Having helped me to get rid of my own, putting my ego in the right place. Right. Yeah. Realizing that it's not about me. It's about serving people. It's about his glory. It's about other things. And I'm not in control. I can't control everything. That's right. And so that calmness has made me more bold, ironically, right? You would think it wouldn't, but it actually does. My calmness allowed me to pick up the phone because I knew that I'm not going to get excited. Right. And I'm not going to be in a bad situation. I can take abuse. I can take, I can take a punch over the phone from a client. Yeah. I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Well, so I'm kind of wondering, so that whole hesitation thing that plays into the hesitation conversation too, because I'm less likely to hesitate when I have the confidence, when I know I don't really have as much to lose, you know?
Right.
But the other thing I wrote down was, we talked about hesitation. You mentioned rightly, Marcus, I think that right and wrong, you know, we don't know if it's right. We don't know if we're not totally sure what we're doing is right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think firing an employee, that could be something we hesitate on? Picking up the phone, like I was just talking about, as small as that is, like they can't hurt me, but I was still afraid, you know? That's kind of like, that's a hesitation. So I wonder, and I think you touched on it, it's right and wrong. You know, we might not know if what we're doing is right, and it has consequences. So if it has consequences, I want it to be the right thing, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
And then ability, right? I think you talked about that too. The woman who's like, doesn't feel capable of dealing with the situation. Yeah. Walking into something. I've had that before where I was bullied, you know, and I didn't know how to, I didn't know what to do. Like, what would I do if a fight started? I never even thrown a punch or like, you know, nobody ever taught me anything. You know, I didn't really wrestle that much or roughhouse with people in my life. I didn't have that. Like, my dad left when I was 4, so there's a little bit of that, but it's like, I didn't know what to do. Today, I feel like I would at least know what to do. Right. But I didn't know if it was right or wrong because, you know, I was raised by a mom who always told me never fight, always tattle on them to the authorities. Yeah. And then I also didn't have any skills. So there were two things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I am a big believer in that we learn through failure, right? That's the only way we learn. You can't get like an A+ in something and say that you learned anything. We learn through failure. And so I've said this to every person I've worked with, and I'm going to say it until my last breath. Most people don't learn to challenge fear until they've had a event that has altered their reality. And that can be violence, it can be work, it can be anything. But whatever it is that sits there and shakes you to the point of your core and says, man, I suck at blank. And the only way you're going to do that is to fail miserably. Like, and I'm going to use, Hank got schooled by a young lady. And had you been successful at that moment, you would not have worked on what you sucked at.
100%.
Right? Like if you did awesome with that guy in the mount, right? If you did great with that, you would not have come home and drilled that over and over again. So, I mean, and shooting's a perfect example. If we don't dry drill our mechanics and get used to it, man, we're until we get it, and then we go to the range and all of a sudden we're shooting left and people are laughing at us. And that's the problem, is that our fear of failure, instead of embracing that that's our learning, is if we can shift that way of thinking, man, our lives are going to be a lot more enjoyable. And that's where I have a problem with confrontation. Like, I don't like confrontation. I will do anything possible not to have confrontation because I'm afraid that my reaction is only going to be what's in here, which is violence. And that means that I'm in a bad position if it gets to violence. Because I'll tell you right now, unless somebody is doing grievous bodily harm, which is unlikely because I don't put myself in those situations. So if I'm so afraid of how I'm going to react, then I just avoid and evade. Now, that's not practical for most real life situations, especially with work, right? With work, you can't sit there and avoid all the time because you're in the same office. So how do we, like the clients, I love the client analogy, because if they're paying you money for something and you're not doing what they want and doing the best for them in their eyes, how do you sit there and confront the fact that you're going to be told that you suck at something? But if you don't get that feedback from someone about what you're sucking at, how are you supposed to be better at serving your fellow human being?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. And how do you get better at negotiating when they're the ones that are wrong? Because that's possible too, you know?
Yeah. But when a client is wrong, right? They're wrong. And again, right and wrong, it's so black because they're wrong in my eyes. they're not wrong in their eyes. In their eyes, they think they're doing it right.
Sure.
And the only way we can have that conversation is say, listen, Chris, you're telling me that you don't like when I do conference calls with my Batman shirt on. I like wearing my Batman shirt because I feel empowered when I do that and talk to you so that I can feel better and do a better job for you. And we can have a better connection and our product can kick butt. But if the shirt is bothering you that much, how do you feel about Wonder Woman? Can I wear a Wonder Woman shirt? Right? You're laughing.
Can I get a picture of you with a Wonder Woman shirt?
I would love to put a Wonder Woman shirt on. She's sexy. But if you, and again, most confrontation or negative situations, once humor gets involved, and hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can get somebody to smile, it's really hard to hit somebody or be violent to somebody or be verbally abusive, with the exception of the 1% who are sociopaths. But laughter and smiling usually is the ultimate diffuser, right? How do you make a kid stop crying? Make them laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we're no different than children. If we treated other people the same way we would treat children, we'd have a better universe.
Yeah. And I think the, and I think your point about, the client's not, necessarily wrong. They, even if they didn't read the agreement and are, it's just like, that's their world, and it's more like, where I work, it's more like, are they a good fit or not? And like, we'll tell them what we can do. And if they don't like it, they might be mad at us, or we tell them how much something costs. They might think, oh, that's a lot. And it's like, well, you don't know how much that costs.
Right.
So,
yeah, but nobody
that's
likes
fine. I'm not mad at anybody, but I think that's the thing is like being able to, go, there will be times when you're right and the other person's wrong. And I think that our society doesn't like to talk about that, but there are those times, but I think your point still stands that that's really not, it really doesn't have the biggest bearing on how we handle things. It's more like that answers the question, should I confront them? Right. Because I need to confront them because this is right. Think about like speech today, it's like Jordan Peterson. The big thing is he's like, look, I don't want to lie to people and call them the gender that they're not. Right. And it's like, I respect that. And I kind of want to be a voice of reason too. And I know it's going to offend some people, but here's the thing, there's a right and there's a wrong. And if our society at large doesn't know that, then the society is going to have a problem. Right. So for me, I'm thinking men as leaders, we need to have a good conscience. We need to never lie, right? We need to not lie. We need to stop lying in our personal lives, right? We just need to stop lying. We need to tell the truth. But that's the kind of courage that we need to have. So I think there's that tells us the confrontation is worth having. There's a right and a wrong here, and it matters, right?
Right.
The next question is, do I get indignant and get mad at them for not knowing right and wrong? That's the problem, I think, right? I think that's the problem you're talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the issue you're talking about is like, I'm going to get mad because they should know right from wrong. Well, guess what? They don't know right from wrong. They don't know. They don't agree with you. They don't see it your way.
Do you get mad at a child when they walk up, okay, and they take your favorite mug and smash it on the ground? Do you get mad at them? You're mad at the situation.
Well, if they do it on purpose, I think I might be a little shocked, but right.
Yeah, but they're a kid. They're a kid. They walk up and they see it and they drop it. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Are you stupid? What kind of stupid kid are you? I can't believe you're so retarded. What the hell are you doing? Right? Why you wouldn't do that? So when somebody comes at you and they're angry about a contract, okay, words, they're angry at words. Chris, wow. I can see that my contract I sent you has really got you upset. Now, hold on a second. Which part specifically is it that you're mad about? I need to know, because obviously if you're mad, I might have screwed up and I might have sent that to somebody else as well. So let's fix this because I need to do some damage control. What is the words that you're upset about again? Come on, man. It becomes a pissing contest between one guy's going to say this to me and I'm going to one-up him and then it's a one-up. It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. Chris, if you're mad at me, you're mad. You have every right to be mad. I need to know when you're finished being mad so that I can apologize.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong, even if it's you are 100% wrong in that you're yelling at me, Chris.
Yeah. And
I'm
I
pretty
think,
sure whatever I did pissed you off. And you know what? My bad.
well, the challenge I face is not lying, right? In that situation, because we always want to say, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I don't do this with my wife. I don't tell her she's right if I don't understand why she's right yet. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm for sure right. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie and say like, oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I did that at the beginning of my marriage and it was a mistake. I'm not going to lie.
No, and I'm not going to lie to people. Now when we're talking about marriage, first of all, there's an intimacy there, right? There's an intimacy. What the position you brought to this conversation in the beginning was work related. Well, I don't have my relationship at work and my relationship with my woman is not the same. I better not have the same relationship at work as I do with my woman, because there would be some challenges there. Yeah. Now, I don't have a woman, but I've had women in my lifetime. So just so you know. And when I talk about marriage, I've divorced twice, so I know what not to do.
Well, you have you have a son, I think, right? So I think
well, my son's got special needs, so that's a whole different parenting.
But there had to be some kind of relationship of some kind there, right?
But when you talk about the fact of not lying,
right,
there's a way to de-escalate a situation, to calm the situation down. Because when somebody's wrong and you're like, well, I want to make sure that I'm honest and authentic in how I convey this to somebody, and I need to sit there and let them know that they were wrong, and I need to be authentic. There's a way to sit there and be able to calm a situation, neutralize it, and then sit there and be like, just so you know, I know you were upset about this, but I need to be authentic and honest with you. I feel that this section, now again, they're this mad. Now we've gotten it down to face value and been like, listen, this section of it, I'm not cool with. Everything else, I get your point, I get it, but this specific part, I'm not cool with that. Yeah. Because now you're at least being honest about what it is that you're really upset about. Because that person may come up and be like, that's the part that you're upset about? Yeah, I'm not cool with that. Well, that's not the part that I'm upset about. Well, what part are you upset about? Well, I'm upset about this. Oh, well, no. Most of the time when people fight, they're doing this. They're smashing like this, but their argument is all over the place. They're not actually focusing on what the actual problem is. Much like, look at when you disagree with your wife. Many times when we talk to our spouses, the real problem, the root problem, is not what immediately is what's being talked about. Usually it's something that's built up from months and weeks and years.
Yeah. So, and I think what you're getting at is, I agree. And that was kind of where I was going with that, is the idea that, I don't have to lie to be polite and to work, to work. And so like our clients, I hope that our clients are great. And we only work with people who, we have that kind of mutual respect. And there are a couple of times, like last week, where it's kind of a standout, like, we had, some, I don't know if it's misunderstandings or what, but, communication didn't, or maybe it was not communication. Maybe it was just, they didn't like what we did, and sometimes that's true. And the point is, when I called them, the issue is, like, I could always say, oh yeah, sorry. But I need to know what I'm sorry for first. And I think that's a man skill, is clear. To know, like, hey, men, first of all, are to create order. Part of it is like creating order, because if you create the order, you will short circuit a lot of the disagreements and a lot of the weirdness, because you know what you're about. Right. And so when going into these conversations, creating order doesn't mean like apologizing for things you don't do. And I know that's not what you're saying. I never heard you say that. So I'm not saying you did. But I just want to point out that a lot of it is like, if you can say it calmly. I had a conversation a couple months ago with a client, and I'm like, you know what, we're not seeing eye to eye on this. And I've explained it to her twice. And then I realized, like, we're not seeing eye to eye on this. And then I suggested a way forward, but I did it calmly, and I suggested a way forward. And that was it. And the fact is, I don't have to win every battle. I don't have to get the result I want and everything. And I think that that's been kind of my like path to freedom, I think. And I think that applies. I don't know. When I hear you talk about de-escalation, like physical de-escalation is probably way more stressful than my examples, right?
Actually, but I disagree. When we are having a discussion, and it's something that I can't. First of all, I can't punch you in the face, right? Like having and again, I'm going to bring Hank into this only because he understands that a violence of action or action of violence is always a nice. Usually, you get further with a kind word and a gun than just a kind word. Okay, so violence is always a good stopping point. But when you don't have that option, when that option is taken off the table and I have to use my words, I am talking to you now at 50, whatever I am. I've got decades of not having this conversation. I've got decades of the fact that I sat there and we had a discussion and my head smashed your face because that was the best answer. That's not the best answer. Communication is the hardest thing to sit there and have between two people who have opposing opinions.
Yeah.
Hank, yes or no? Is he?
Yeah, that's 100%, man.
There we go.
Yeah, it is 100%. And that's what's so, I guess and especially like I'm going back onto, the men's Bible study I was at last night is that, it is the hardest thing, but it's the best, and it's the best for us, and so that's why it's a skill that needs to be worked. It needs to be worked, and it needs to be clear in your mind, right? Like, yeah, I have a gun, I have that physical means, but there's a line and it's real far from here. And we got tons of time before we ever get there, especially in a more professional setting. And so that's where I think a lot of people have to, one, you have to have that mindset, and then two, reps. You have to practice. You have to practice the de-escalation. Hey, we're nowhere near that red line. All right. So let's talk this through. Let me get my practice of how I can de-escalate this situation, how I can bring understanding. And we may not ever get to the same understanding, but it's the same thing of like, what is it? Agree to disagree. Fine. Cool. I acknowledge you have a different opinion than I do, and I accept it. Man, like if you can do that, you'll go real far, man. Because I know I haven't had that. I haven't had that in a lot of relationships because I'm just like, it's impossible. Your opposing view is impossible in my mind, and so therefore it's dumb and wrong, right? Like that's like it's so childish, but that's what you think. Like as a man, you're like, no, I can't be wrong on this, and you're like, look, sometimes it's okay. It's okay. To accept that, and even though it's hard to get there, we are getting there. And then it's like, all right, hey, we just don't see these things the same, and being okay with that as a man, and being like, I'm comfortable in the way that I view. I've looked at your opinion, and I just don't see it. Maybe I'll see it later on, and I'm okay with that. And that brings peace, doesn't it?
I think so. And I think the truth is like, if you took two people, two savages and they both have axes in their hands, right? And they lay them on the table. They both know they can cave in that. They canoe them both. Okay. They know that.
Yep.
They're more likely to sit there and have a good conversation because they know what the end result can be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to agree to disagree. We can't agree to disagree. Okay. Then it's time to go to, and again, I use savages because of the fact that our society has been so consumed with not being savage because it's not cool, right? Yeah. It's not cool. We want to take everybody's feelings into account. And there's got to be a balance, because we've gone from like male dominance and just shitty males, like just really bad men. And now we're on the other extreme where being a man, nobody even knows what being a man is. And I don't know what being a man is. I was raised by women. I have no idea what being a man is, but I know what being a good human being is. And that's all I'm going to ever, in anything we do with education, has to be, am I being a good human? And if I'm being a good human, then I'm doing the right things. Am I doing more for others than I'm doing for myself? Am I being kind? Am I showing kindness to those that cannot be kind back to me? Now I'm able to be kind to those people who can't be kind back to me because I have an axe and I have no problem about burying it in their head. Not everybody has that option. Everybody doesn't know what that's like. And I don't think that they're less of a man because they can't use violence when they need to.
So a lot of what you're talking about is something I think, we have guys on two sides. It's like we have the guys who are just like, oh yeah, I'm an Ultraman and I know how to, use violence and, that whole thing. A little more on the savage end, a little more decisive. Like there's some good things about that. C.S. Lewis talks about that. He talks about the guy who's like a little more of a bully, but he's also braver in combat because he has physical courage and stuff. Then you have the guy who's like a little, he's nicer, he's more socially acceptable, at least today. But he can't do violence because he's too scared. And he talks about who did it wasn't Galahad. Who was the guy who Genevieve's like cheated on Arthur with Genevieve? He was Lancelot. He used the example in one of the Arthurian legends. He was like, Lancelot was chopping guys' heads off in battle. And then he was crying in court because he got this honor of like some kind of like knightly honor, Knight of the Year or whatever it was, and he's like, that's the guy. Like, that's the guy who he's the warrior and he's a poet like David. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I want to talk about one more thing. I know we're getting, we're a little over time. Do you guys have another couple of minutes?
No, I'm good.
Hank?
Yeah, I'm at the end of that.
All right. So I mentioned before that to you, Marcus, that Christian men, we don't move chess pieces. God does. God's the one who's in control. I like I said, I mean, when I saw that you got baptized, I was pretty stoked. And so, and that's why I want to have you on the show. Cause like, you're a guy you've seen the more brutal sides of life, and now you're making that change. And when I said that, I said that God moves the chess pieces. I was telling you about my situation, my testimony, my background, and just how I realized like, I don't have the ability to change this situation. And Hank, I just remember you telling me a story about, we were talking one time just about how like, dude, you thought you could handle it. You thought you had it. And then you didn't, Right. And that humility before God, putting ourselves in the right place in the right place. Like God is God. He's the general, we're the soldiers. Yep. Marcus, it sounded like you agreed with that. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on that. I mean, true, not true. What do you think?
Well, so I played for the other team for a lot of years. Okay. And so I can confidently say I've seen both sides of the coin. And I'll say this, that walking in faith and knowing that God has protected me all these years, and I can say that truthfully, that even when I was playing for the other team, I know God's big plan saw that at some point in time I'd have my head rung in and be like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that the key is walking in faith and knowing that you're going to stumble, and knowing that as long as I got this, I wrote it down. Worship is the only gift I can give to God. I got that from a guy named Michael Todd. As long as I can worship my God and say, I'm trying my best to do for you, and thank you for protecting me all these years and keeping me alive and doing everything that you've done, and being okay with the fact that some things are out of my control. A lot of this is out of my control. Do you guys know how to make God laugh, by the way? I don't know if you know this. Do you know how to make God laugh?
How?
Do you know how to make God laugh?
Tell him you're going to do something.
Tell him what your plans are, right, brother? So, and I got that from somebody about 15 years ago while I was still not on this path. And I think that if we are okay with the fact that God's got a bigger plan and a bigger purpose, and trust is the key thing. And knowing that I'm a human, man. I'm a human, and I'm going to make mistakes. And the key is to, one, hopefully not make the same mistake more than 3 times or twice. and saying, listen, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it 100%. Even if my brain says, I don't really know if this is a cool idea. God, if you really want me to do this, then I got to do it. And that type of faith is challenging for most people, but it's not challenging for anybody who played for the other team. When you see what the other side's got going on, and I basically now just do the opposite. If I feel like it's kind of feeling comfortable, I do the opposite, because I know for sure the stuff that's uncomfortable is God talking to me.
Yeah, that reminds me of Rutherford too. It's like get out of your comfort, man.
Yeah, and the enemy lies to us. And I don't want to go too much in this because I know Hank's got to go, but the enemy lies, and I know he lies. And I have conversations. I talk no word of a lie. I talk to God, pray to God at least 30 times in a day. And a lot of times I'm having a conversation. I'm like, whoa, I know that's not God talking to me right now. That's my garbage. That's the devil talking to me and I'm like, hold on, you know what? Just protect me from that nonsense. Get that stuff out. And because the loop of negative insurgency, that's the devil talking. Yeah. And the hardest part for people walking down in faith is what's a lie and what's the truth. And if it ain't with God, then it's a lie. If God's not cool with this, and usually if it's not, I'm not being kind, I'm not being graceful, I'm not doing better for somebody than they're, for me, then it's a lie. And if it's a lie, I don't have time for it. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's the best answer I got.
I love that, man. I love that. Hank, anything to add?
On the chess analogy?
On the what? Yeah, sure. Just I remember the conversation when you were telling me. Do you mind if I share the?
No, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I just remember you were telling me that story about the 511 application. Do you have a second to just kind of tell us about that whole dude? I was I mean, everyone knows the brand 511, right? Pretty recognizable. They became quite big building chest rigs, magazine holsters and all that stuff, right? Got really into the military. And I was going through part of my life, it was I was back in school, but I still needed to make some money. And so I saw an application for 511, and it's not far from my house. I've never been in there, but I was like, I've been in a 511 before. I get it. I like gear, and so, so I was like, I'm shooing. So I went and I put an application in, and I'm telling you, the whole time I was like, man, dude, all I have to do is attach my resume. Why would they not call me? Yeah, Navy SEAL, what? They're gonna feel I
didn't get an acknowledgement. I didn't even get a rejection. Hey, we looked at your stuff and we went with something else, but hey, you seem cool. No props were given, no acknowledgement, just dead silence. And it hit me. I was like, wow, okay. That was humbling. I mean, I thought why would they not want me? Why would they not want somebody with my background? And I was so prideful and confident, and yeah, man, it was just a massive learning point. God just immediately, I knew God was like, you need some humility.
Knock you down. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just and I just remember, that conversation. I'm like, dude, cause I had just gone through that, that whole thing. And I was like, dude, I was full-time instructor at the University of Oregon. Then I was a rock star at a tech company. And now I'm a part-time project manager at a small, whatever. And I'm just but God, this is where you have me, and I'm content, that was the beginning of me stopping striving. That was the beginning of me stopping grasping everything, trying to make stuff happen, trying to move all the chess pieces that I thought I was smart enough to move and I couldn't, and then hearing that story from you, I was just like, oh, thank you, Lord. That's so cool. I mean, just that you took that away from me, And
I'm happy you didn't get the job, brother, because, man, you don't need that environment. You need a growth environment, man.
Yeah.
You don't need
a little backstory. A little backstory. I was looking for chest rigs to work out with, and I ordered one. I ordered that one. And then I saw Marcus. I saw this the model in the thing, and I was like, that looks like Marcus.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, were you the model for that? And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I like, that's hilarious. So, full disclosure, Marcus does not model for 511 that I know of. So
no, it was Wolf Tactical, little slug for them. But the truth is I can't, in the time I've been around you guys right now, putting Hank in a 511 store, surrounding with the people that go into these stores, which God bless them, man, that's fantastic. But I just honestly, God was like, I can see it right now. He's like, dude, no way. Nope. Now I understand that you needed a little bit of humble pie, brother, but I'm telling you, the big blessing is also the fact that would have been torture to work in that store. So I'm glad you got humbled, and I'm happy you didn't get in that store.
Disclosure, 511, if you're thinking about sponsoring us, Marcus does not represent the views of, but I did buy Wolf Tactical, and I'm waiting for it to come. So
when it comes, let me know.
All right, man. Cool, guys. Well, any last words, guys, before we wrap up?
I'm good. Hey, Marcus, it was really good to meet you, man.
Appreciate you, brother. I hope you and your daughter have a fantastic. Let's see her. Hey, what's up, girl? What's happening?
Hey, you want to say hi?
You turn on the lights, man.
She doesn't want to say
what's
hi.
happening?
Gianna, what a cutie.
Sorry, Orange. You want stuff? Yeah.
Oh, what do you want to eat?
Never.
She wants me to come play with her. So
yeah, good call. I don't blame you, Dad. Get out of here.
All right.
All right, guys. Just one real quick thing. Just wanted to say thanks, Marcus, for joining us. It's been awesome having you here. Your spirit and you're full of life. Love it. And then just dude, so glad you're part of the brotherhood of Christian brothers, man. This is amazing. And then Hank, as always, appreciate you being on the podcast and love your questions, love your point of view. Guys, it's been awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
If you need to find anybody who's watching this, you need to find any more information, you want to know a little bit more about Marcus, I'm getting to here's his phone number. Just kidding.
1-800 no way.
It's MarcusTorgerson.com. That's Marcus, common spelling, MarcusTorgerson.com.
Yep.
Check him out. And that's where you'll find information on him. And there's probably some like an info app or something like that where you can send questions or something.
Yeah. But and social media galore. I'm a social media hooker. I was going to say a different word.
He's a social media whore on Instagram.
Yeah,
I know that. So
sorry. I'm not the silent professional because I am not a professional. So
love it. All right. Can we have you
guys have a great weekend, okay?
All right, you too, man. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
All right, bye.